Two, hello, check. Check two, hello. Hello. What's up, folks? What's up? What's up, friends? How are you doing? I'm here. Man, my mustache is really back now. We're so back. We're so back. I spent a couple months, moving away from the mustache lifestyle. This is what I'm about, though, frankly. This is what I'm about. I'm about that life. Our long national nightmare is over. The title of the stream is Slander, and I won't have it, sir. Please change it or suffer the wrath of Muad'Dib's jihad. Desert Power. I haven't watched the new trailer. The new trailer for, that's right, Lost Sue. I haven't watched the new trailer yet. I thought the title would just be provocative. I wasn't actually suggesting that this stream is better than Dune Part 2. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it'll be a huge disappointment. You don't know that. Dune 2, it takes like 2 years to make Dune 2. I do 5 of these episodes every week. Surely just in terms of pure volume, that's got to count for something. That's got to count for something. Do you know how many more hours that is? I do 3 Dune 2s every single week. I haven't watched the trailer though yet, though. I thought maybe we could watch it and react to it. I think 5. It's usually 5. Sometimes 4, okay. Sometimes 4. Sometimes unforeseen events happen. Acts of God, etc. I really am coming up on, as hard as this is to believe, I'm not quite there. I'm like 8/10 of the way there to 2,000 total hours of TRRS. I'm at 1.66K, which is just an insane amount. That's an insane amount of content. Like when I turned the camera on like a week before Election Day in 2020, I was like, let's check out this whole Twitch thing. And now it's like 2.5 years later. Coming up on 2,000 fucking hours that I've spent doing this. That's something else. If only I had known. If only I had known, I could go back. I could go back and stop myself from getting involved in this. No, I'm just joking, chat. I'm just joking. I'll never stop. 2K hot tub celebration stream. No, I've made it very clear. Frank, I've made it very clear what needs to happen in order for the hot tub stream to happen. Couldn't be more clear. So we're a ways away from that. Maybe at hour 3,000 we'll get there. We'll see. I just got this little like stir fry kind of thing from the grocery store this morning. I was getting a few things and thought I would pick up a little something for lunch. If you don't mind, I'm just going to enjoy that. Could go in the fridge, could go in the microwave another 30 seconds. In fact, I think I'm going to do that. 1 sec. Just one sec. There we go. Sorry, I just got to heat that up a little bit more. I made a really nice dinner last night. Really good. I made some chicken thighs and bok choy and rice. I'm like, the way my brain works is I get kind of like fixated on things. I get fixated on creative projects. I get fixated on foods. I get fixated on whatever, and I really like it. It takes a while for me to move away from it. Right now it's bok choy. Right now I just can't stop making bok choy. It's really good. You throw it in a stir fry. You throw it in a ramen. You just have it as a side. You just have it even as a little snack. You fry up some bok choy and some sesame oil, soy sauce, garlic, onion powder, paprika. Fry that up. Just 5-10 minutes. 5-10 minutes. And it absorbs all those flavors. It's so flavorful. The leaves get kind of crisped up in the oil. Fantastic. Really good as a side. Boil them, mash them, stick it in a stew. For example, so last night I made that as a side. We made some chicken thighs, rice, bok choy, really good. On Saturday night, I have some just like chicken wings. I throw them in the air fryer. You throw those in the air fryer and you can toss them in the sauce and add some sesame seeds to them and some spring onion with some bok choy on the side. It's 10-15 minutes max. I was really cooking for 15 minutes. Absolute max. And it's like just a tremendous meal. Pretty healthy. Very flavorful. Very tasty. Fantastic. It is delicious. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but we have Parasite tonight, don't we? In the TRRS Discord server? Am I correct? Is that right? Is that about right? Chin chin. I would like to do a cooking stream. I don't really know how to set that up, though. I don't really know how to set it up. I need to set myself up more for some more mobility, some IRL stuff. Eventually, in time. Hey, Stu, how's it going? On vacation for a week. Very nice, Stu. Very nice. That's very good. Also, last night, I did watch I finally finished Better Call Saul last night. I don't really know what took me so long. I was saying yesterday or whenever it was, I took like a few years off from watching it. It didn't pull me in totally at the beginning. I enjoyed it, but I didn't watch it every year. You know, I kind of let a few seasons go by without paying much attention to it. And I've just caught up on like the last 4 or 5 seasons. For like season 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think I watched. And fuck, it's just like, Stu, it's so good. Stu, seriously, it's phenomenal. And I would say it's better than Breaking Bad. It really is. The whole like Albuquerque Odyssey, I don't know, whatever you would call it. The Albuquerque extended universe is just fucking phenomenal, honestly. The only thing I haven't seen is El Camino. Did anyone even watch that? Did anyone watch El Camino at all? It's good. Is Breaking Bad required watching to enjoy? No, actually, because like I think it would actually be really interesting to watch it before Breaking Bad. El Camino is like the Jesse Pinkman solo movie that takes place after the finale. It would, if you do watch Better Call Saul prior to Breaking Bad, it would spoil a few things about Breaking Bad, I guess. But I think it would be really interesting to watch it that way. I don't think it's essential at all. I also started watching Two Towers Extended last night. Great sequel. I remember seeing all those in the theater, and I remember in the early 2000s, the Two Towers was one of those like DVDs that was always on in whatever apartment I was living in. You know, you have like the menu screen to the Two Towers playing in the background. I watched it so many times. It is pretty weird that he didn't get it. Like, who cares about the Emmys, right? But like, he did like an objectively phenomenal fucking job. You know, like who won Emmys in all the years that Better Call Saul was on TV? What were all the Emmy winners during that time? Sorry, just one sec. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was really good. Really liked the ending as well. I thought Breaking Bad was a show that really nailed the ending. I really enjoyed the finale of that, which was what, fucking 10 years ago now? That's kind of crazy. Really enjoyed the Saul ending though. Like, kind of dark. It's not a happy ending, but it's probably the happiest ending that you can imagine for that character. You know? I liked it a lot. Still haven't finished Breaking Bad. Diego, you should get on it. You should get on it. You're missing out on these big cultural institutions here. Ugh. You need to know what people are talking about when we get into this stuff. Emmy winners, Best Actor. So this year, Lee Jung-jae from Squid Game beat Bob for the final season of Better Call Saul. I don't know, he was fine. And Squid Game was entertaining. It was a fine performance. But like, come on now. Year before, he wasn't nominated. Oh, he wasn't even nominated until the last year. He wasn't even nominated. Oh, wait, no, he was nominated in 2019 and lost to Billy Porter for Pose. Billy Porter for Pose. I don't even know what Pose is. Did I spoil a bit of Better Call Saul? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I might finally watch the last step of The Americans. I was so worried, but I finally heard what happened. I've never watched the end of that, and I loved the first season and the first couple of seasons. Really, the first like 3 seasons of The Americans. I was a huge watcher. Like, really enjoyed it, but I never finished it. I think once I saw the anti-communism started creeping in, it made me not want to see it. When I was just like unapologetically cheering for 2 absolute heroes of the Soviet Union, living in the heart of empire, in the belly of the beast, striking at the imperialist dogs. I really enjoyed that. Once it got into the like, oh, I'm so disillusioned. Oh, maybe America's not that bad. I was like, come on now. It is that bad. You keep up your mission. Philip and Elizabeth. Is that it? I don't know if I did see the South Africa arc. Odal. Apes together strong. I haven't seen Americans yet. I figured it'd be straight U.S. propaganda. Well, that's what I mean about those first seasons, though, is because it's quite like the protagonists of the show are Soviet spies. Trying to destroy America, and you, as the viewer, are like, I want them to accomplish their mission. That's kind of cool. But I don't know. As it gets to the end, I think it starts to lose that kind of ideological focus. Although someone said it's not that bad, though, so maybe I should watch it. Plunger Man says it has a pretty good ending. I guess I could watch it. It's just sad, though, too, right? It's sad because you know that they're not going to succeed. It's sad because you know the beautiful, glorious project that they're trying to protect and nourish, and you just know that it's headed towards the end. When it's in the mid 80s, it's just a few years from the end, and so you always know, like, in the back of your mind, they're always just they're right circle. It's the circling the drain. It is sad. It's sad. So no, that's my TV opinions. I really love Better Call Saul. Jeez, it's like I can't really over the last couple of months has really leapfrogged a lot of other series as one of my favorite ever, I think. So Bob nominated twice during that run, lost to Billy Porter in 2019, lost to Lee Jung-jae in 2022. And no disrespect to either of those performers, but like, come on. Come on now. Enough of this silliness. With 1-800, come on now. So, what are we doing today, folks? What's on the docket? What is on the docket? I don't even know. I've really not been doing a good job of planning these things out, I'll tell you that much. I still don't totally know if I'm going to be able to do this, but I think I may be doing a. Have you heard about this Trump guy? I've heard he's orange. This man is orange. He looks like he resembles a Cheeto. What the fuck? I may do a special TRRS episode on Saturday. A special Saturday Coronation Edition TRRS. And we can watch all the silliness and laugh at it and be depressed by it. I don't know. What do we think about that? That could be kind of fun. That could be kind of cool. I think today is definitely a protracted video day. There's a few little things that I did want to take a look at. I think we have just kind of like a little news roundup thing that could last a little while. We'll track the Stone of Destiny in real time. The fucking Stone of Destiny. Get that out of my face. This is not real. None of this shit is real. Give me a fucking break. Local boys will spend a quarter just to shine the silver bowl. Living hard will take its toll. Fortnite when? I did pick up. I got some real highs and lows in Fortnite lately. I picked up a very solid battle victory royale on Monday after the stream, and then this morning I was playing with Chai Bureaucrat and Blue. We had the victory royale in the palm of our hands, and I fucking blew it. And I was so disappointed. I'm gonna be thinking about it all day. The Kremlin attack and the stamp. Did they do a stamp of that as well? The same thing with the Crimean Bridge, just to eliminate any suspicion that possibly, NATO is behind it. Did they do the stamp again? I didn't even know that. They're fucking stamps. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
It's me, the TRRS VIP, checking in my from government mandated lunch break to say, hello, Rob.
Hello to valued community member Red Scary. Thank you for the 28 months of Tier 1 I hope you have a good lunch break. Hello. Hello, Slam Dunkins. What is up? Yeah, we were just talking about this Kremlin drone strike thing. And I know Russia's framing it as like a Putin assassination attempt. It seems more of like a lame meme thing. Like I don't know if they were they actually trying to assassinate Putin, or were they just doing like a lame fucking meme war thing? It seems a little bit more like that. I don't know. Why did you drone strike the Kremlin? It was actually an accident. Okay? I didn't mean to. Oh man. This is just silly. What are we doing here? What is this? Immediately with the stamp. How the hell are we supposed to take this place seriously? We're testing air defense for something in the future. Victory Day is soon. That's very true as well. I saw that there was some like billionaire that was offering a reward for someone that could land a drone during the Victory Day celebration. Because the best way to beat the Nazi allegations is to like disrupt the celebration of how Russia, along with millions of brave Ukrainians, I'll keep repeating, successfully defeated Nazis. Really good way to beat those allegations is to try and disrupt that parade, just to make it really abundantly clear exactly what's going on here. Let's see this drone strike here. LA concession. Local boys will spend a quarter just to shine the silver pole. Yeah, this RWA podcast. I don't want to give these guys too much credit. These like Russians with attitude podcast guys seem incredibly sketchy, but have been a somewhat decent resource just for footage like this. I don't want to endorse, in case anyone's confused, though, I don't want to endorse the entirety of the viewpoint of the Russians with Attitude podcast, but definitely a decent source to, find footage like this. Yeah, like czarist nationalists. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like they are going for the flag, though. Again, this seems more like a meme than that they can then commemorate with an instant postage stamp than really like anything like an addition of an actual sort of assassination attempt. Monarchists. We do not have to hand it to the Russian monarchists. Anti-communist but broken clocks. Well, that's the thing. It's like even just like reporting whatsoever on a viewpoint that's remotely sympathetic to Russia is just, since that's not being done in our media, you have to turn to outlets like that to get that perspective, considering it's not allowed. You're not allowed to advocate for a position that's remotely sympathetic to Russia's like security concerns, or like you can't talk about like their viewpoint of this kind of stuff, or suggest that there's any merit to the talking points about, NATO expansion or denazification or any of that stuff. So considering that viewpoint is literally not allowed in our media, that's where you have to get that info. The Russian monarchist should try to do an Anastasia scam again. Bring that shit back. Oh, this is Anastasia's grandson. Yeah, of course. A talking head on Al Jazeera this morning thought that it was a dry run to practice for the Victory Day celebration on the 9th. Well, that's what we've been kind of speculating about as well. Which, again, is a really great way to beat the Nazi country allegations. To plan some kind of an attack or disruption of the celebration of when Russia successfully repelled the Nazi horde, along with, yet again, millions of very brave Ukrainian heroes that were also involved in that. I just watched it. One hit the flag dead on. The flag did not burn. I think it's like for a show. Yeah, it seems like that. Yeah. Seems like that. And I think I saw, let's see if I saved it. I've been very bad at like actually saving. Things that I want to look at on here. Just trying to find this piece. I saw something about how there's this person that's trying to like offer up a reward for someone landing a drone on that Victory Day parade. Let's see if I can find it. We're the hyper online war munitions perverts when you need them. Well, that's true. And, one thing that I don't regret about the last year and a half is just one thing we've completely avoided doing on this show is to really dive into like the logistics and the weaponry that's being used and troop deaths and what villages being taken. I feel like I've lost nothing in my understanding of this conflict by not just like obsessing over this kind of shit every single day as some others have. Still just looking for something here. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. I'm just scrolling here. There's one thing that I do think. Oh, here we go. Look. And if people are going to say, oh, you're looking at a clip from the gray zone. Well, someone else do this reporting then, Someone else. If you don't want to give gray zone credit, then someone else do this fucking reporting. Here you have Ukrainian banker offers cash for drone terror in Russia. Oligarch Volodymyr Yatsenko offered a $500,000 bounty to any weapons maker able to land a drone in Red Square during Moscow's upcoming Victory Day parade. And again, if you don't want me to look at gray zone on here, then someone else do this reporting. Otherwise, you leave it up to them and you leave it up to like the Tucker Carlsons of the world.
А от про те, як розвивається вітчизняний ринок безпілотників, коли нарешті будуть закриті всі потреби українських сил оборони, як українським розробникам зайняти своє місце на міжнародному ринку?
Do Ukrainians celebrate the end of World War II? Well, as I keep saying, like they should, of course, considering the amazing legacy of Ukrainians who fought in the Red Army to defeat fascism and end the war. But as I keep saying, like that legacy, a big part of the last 2 years is that legacy just being completely erased from history, you know, which I think is a horrible fucking shame. And now we're talking about this. Now we're talking about disrupting the Victory Day celebrations. Like, is it me? Can you make it more clear? You know, you're talking about NATO, how it was originally run by Nazis, ex-Nazis. You've got NATO, an explicitly anti-Russian military alliance founded by former Nazis, arming and supplying neo-Nazi militias in eastern Ukraine to fuel this proxy war and provoke this conflict. And then you have these same people disrupting, like tearing down Soviet statues of the Soviet Ukrainians who fought fascism, disrupting Victory Day celebrations, commemorating the victory over Nazism. Like, can we be fucking more clear about what's going on here? We're still pretending. We still have to stick our heads in the sand about this, going, there's Nazis in every country. There's Nazis in Canada. There's Nazis in the United States. There's Nazis in Russia. So we should just continue supporting this. It's like, how much more clear does this need to be for people to see what's going on here, you know? That's really frustrating.
І коли українські безпілотники долетять до Красної площі. От про це давайте поговоримо з нашим наступним гостем. У нас на зв'язку Володимир Яценко, співзасновник Монобанку, виробника БПЛА «Довбуш». Пане Володимире,
вітаю вас.
Вітаємо, раді вас бачити.
Вітаємо.
Давайте почнемо з цього останнього, не будемо тримати інтригу. Коли БПЛА, як ви думаєте, українські долетять до Красної площі?
I've reported on it a lot myself. That's why we have.
Я вважаю, що треба.
That's why we have monuments to Waffen SS divisions in Canada, because of our long legacy of importing Ukrainian fascists and former SS members and former fascists or ongoing current fascists.
Якийсь такий момент, тобто я вважаю, що 9 травня це дуже добрий момент, тому що, як я прочитав, то Путін планує парад на Червоній площаді, і там буде дуже багато військових. Тобто це будуть, як то вони кажуть, дуже законні військові цілі. І я вважаю, що...
Very legitimate military targets in this parade celebrating the victory over fascism. But you know, no one cares. They just go, Russia's so weird. Why celebrate the end of World War II? It's been 78 years. Yeah, it's not like America has ever used the end of World War II for propaganda purposes. Can you imagine if America were to do that? Can you imagine if they oriented their entire post-war rebranding as this heroic world police defender of freedom based around, brave Americans defeating the Nazis? It's not like America would ever do that. Hey, Lana, how's it going? We're just looking at this Ukrainian banker who's offering a reward for anyone that can land a drone in Red Square during the Victory Day celebrations on May 9th, which is, again, something that non-Nazis are very interested in. Yeah, very subtle. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ukraine's goal here, IMO, is to convince Russia to move air defenses, EW systems away from critical targets to protect the parade. I guess that's a possibility as well. And, they're on this supposed counteroffensive now also, which I can't imagine is going to go that great for them.
А ми це уся спільнота, яка зараз виробляє безпілотники, повинні дійсно зробити їм свято. І я чув, що Путін вагається, чи приймати йому участь, то ми повинні якось йому про себе нагадати. І я, так, щоб теж не тримати інтригу, я скажу так, що я вирішив встановити премію для українського виробника. Ця премія
It does kind of seem like this counteroffensive is sort of the last ditch effort to salvage something.
Виробником на досконалення свого літака. Ця премія буде 20
Ух ти.
мільйонів гривень.
Угу.
Нічого собі.
Так, премія.
Але 20 мільйонів гривень. Але одна умова. Літак повинен зробити приземлення 9 травня на Червоній площаді. Це повинен бути літак, який буде опізнаний, тобто на ньому повинні бути українські гасла. Як то там «Слава Україні», або там «Путін ла-ла-ла», або «Героям слава». Так що я чітко зрозумів.
This country is not filled with Nazis. We simply want to land a drone to disrupt the celebration of the victory against Nazism, and play this or broadcast this fascist slogan. You know, what's wrong with that?
Не долетів. І я хочу сказати, що ці гроші, це 20 мільйонів, це мінімальна сума, яку я самостійно вже поклав у Монобанку. Можна перейти по QR-коду.
What is that shirt? It's like a Ukrainian style.
На цьому
Camo,
рахунку вже лежить 20 мільйонів гривень.
Так, через 20 мільйонів
20
гривень.
мільйонів гривень за участь в параді на Червоній площі.
Да, по суті так.
У параді на Червоній площаді. Я хочу
Круто.
сказати, що
I just don't see how this doesn't further turn into what we wanted in the first place, a quagmire for the Russians and literal hell for the Ukrainian people. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like there's this idea that if this counteroffensive doesn't go anywhere and they and NATO says like, all right, let's you're done. You know, we'll call it a day here. Let's negotiate and end this thing. We don't know if Russia's going to be in the mood to do that, you know? This whole thing of like when we're doing well, then we don't want to negotiate, but when we're not doing well, then it's time to. Russia might not have any interest in that at that point. I would hope that they do, you know? I would hope that they do negotiate and they do end this thing, but they might not be so inclined to do that. I don't think NATO has an appetite for that in the first place. Well, I mean, it does seem like in some of these leaks, and we can talk about these leaks that have come out, whether it's like intentional disinformation or like what is going on with that. I know there's a pretty compelling idea that that's what it was. It does seem like a sense of realism has kind of set in though, where they you know, that they are aware that there's nothing really left that they can keep throwing at this in this meat grinder. Folks like RWA think the SMO will be a failure if they don't take Ukraine's entire coastline along with Donbass. I mean, that was one thing we were speculating on early in the conflict, right? That you know, it was about those eastern republics, but also a land bridge into Crimea, which is a possibility as well. I don't know how many. I feel like NATO's in this until the last Ukrainian boy is dead. I mean, it certainly seems like that sometimes as well. There's certainly appetite, I think, to just continue throwing people into this fucking hellhole until there's just literally nothing left. But anyway, let's just watch the rest of this here.
Щоб не було враження, що там буде гра у власні ворота,
Довбуш
буде приймати участь поза конкурсом.
Ага.
Тобто, сам собі я премії виплачувати не буду.
Це
До речі, я
зрозуміло.
хочу сказати, що ми так вже розминаємося потроху. Наприклад, там 28 березня були такі новини, що там якийсь літачок. На жаль, це був такий чудовий маленький літачок, але він зачепив високовольтну лінію. Але ми не долетіли всього-навсього 45 кілометрів.
I think that's a good point as well, that there seemed to be rifts within NATO also.
То це була підготовка до параду.
Тренування, по суті.
Так, це
Тренування.
була підготовка до параду. Ми так трошки дивилися, як вони реагують, чи бачать нас, чи не бачать. І можу сказати, що все буде добре.
Ну, хай
Будь ласка,
чекають в будь-якому разі.
давайте створимо їм свято.
So yeah, it's funny. I think even like similar to the Nord Stream pipeline, there was speculation from the sort of NAFO crowd this morning with this drone attack or whatever it was, that it was some kind of false flag. But similarly, you know, when they immediately put out a postage stamp commemorating the event and you have this kind of talk, openly, I think it's pretty fucking clear what's going on. I wanted to look at this as well. I've kind of avoided getting into like the RFK Jr. thing. Like I get frustrated. I've seen things that he said about foreign policy, and you're like, that is absolutely correct. But he's one of the leaders of the anti-vax movement. It's like, and I get this frustration that the only criticism of the security state or American imperialism is coming from these absolute fucking cranks, whether it's RFK Jr., whether it's Tucker Carlson, whoever, or to people that are doing it with ulterior motives. At the same time, though, I think you have to acknowledge that, like, when the entirety of the left has just completely abdicated the responsibility for talking about this, it leaves the door open for folks like that to make these arguments. And I don't know. It's like I think we may be underestimating RFK's possibilities. They release those polling numbers, and for someone that has like no real campaign or anything going on and has this status as being kind of a weird crank, his poll numbers were fairly high, and people don't want Biden to run again. RFK Jr., and again, I don't think this is an ideal solution in any way, considering his complete crank tendencies on a number of levels. But, I think there's a possibility that he could end up being like shaking up this sort of non-democratic primary that's going on in the similar way that Trump did, as kind of like an anti-establishment type, which is hilarious considering his family name, But it's the same thing that I was saying with Gray Zone. If you don't like Gray Zone and you don't want to use them as like a news source, or you don't like the Russians with Attitude podcast, you don't want to use them as a news source, or you don't want to use Robert Kennedy Jr. as a news source. I get all these things, but when the responsibility of talking about this in sort of a nuanced way, or a way that's critical of the West or NATO, is just completely given up on, well, it opens the door for folks like this.
Good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Diego. I did not say nude source. No, that's not correct. That is not true. Thank you very much, Diego. Anyway, here's this. There's a leftist critique about the vaccine, but it's languishing on a shelf in the UK for a decade because nobody wanted to pay the clinical trials because not enough profit. Yeah, or the way that it's been used to like make massive profits for these big pharma companies. Not that the vaccine itself isn't effective or like can't play a role in like lessening the impacts of the pandemic. Obviously, the idea that it was kind of the be-all and end-all cure was just never accurate. But yeah, the fact that they're exploiting people, the fact that they're not giving out the vaccine to people around the global south and around the world, the fact that it was used as a way for them to like rake in record profits, and now they're jacking up the price of it after the first little round of state-sanctioned vaccines have passed on. Now they're just raking in the profits from it and jacking up the price. Like that's where the conspiracy come in, Yeah, and it does seem like it is barely effective anymore in the first place. Well, that's when the vaccine wasn't given out to the extent that it needed to be. And we can talk about how in the West there's this whole movement led by people like RFK Jr. to which people like in the Gray Zone have also gotten involved in, to like spread misinformation and to not do it. It's also not given to these global South countries. And then, of course, it leads to more mutations and variants, which get out from under the whatever effectiveness that the vaccine once had in the first place. Our government going all in on vaccines to the exclusion of any other measure has been the biggest gift to the anti-vax movement. Yeah, because then it's like, well, look, you can get a vaccine now, so it's okay. So we can just take off masks. We can stop having any public health measures. We can stop really pretending that anything's going on at all. Just get your vaccine and it's fine. And then people correctly point out, like, well, all these people are still dying and they have the vaccine. So what the fuck? And then, yeah, as you're saying, it's just complete red meat to these like sort of anti-vax cranks. Do not check the TRRS Discord for nude sources. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Anyway, here's this quote from RFK Jr. And listen, if you don't want RFK Jr. to make this case, then someone to the left of fucking Tucker Carlson should be making this argument, you know? No one seems interested in doing that, so then it leaves it to like RFK Jr. to make these cases. But look at this though.
Let's be honest, this is a U.S. war against Russia for geopolitical reasons that have been, these geopolitical machinations that have been going on since 2014 with the intelligence agencies and the neocons, and to essentially sacrifice the flower of Ukrainian youth in an abattoir of death and destruction for the geopolitical ambition.
I haven't listened to him talk.
The neocons, off-stated.
No, I don't know if anyone's going to vote for that voice.
Of regime change for Vladimir Putin and of exhausting the Russian military so that they can't fight anywhere else in the world. And,
it's so funny that he's married to Cheryl Hines.
Biden
from
has
Curb Your
said
Enthusiasm.
that was his intention, to depose, to get rid of Vladimir Putin. His Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, in April 2022 said, our purpose here is to exhaust the Russian army. Well, what does that mean, exhaust? It means throwing Ukrainians at them. And, the young, my son fought over there side by side with the Ukrainians.
This is actually a good point too, Law, whatever, dog. We can criticize RFK Jr. for being an anti-vax crank, there's a lot of that's very accurate. But you say, I also don't feel like the policies on COVID would even differ between him or Biden. It's even crazier to acknowledge COVID is deadly and doing nothing about it. I mean, that's a good point as well. Like, Joe Biden has gone all in on just completely pretending that it's not happening anymore. So how is that going to be any different?
We've sacrificed 300,000 Ukrainians. The commander of the Special Forces unit in the Ukraine, which is probably the most elite and the best fighting force in Europe, arguably, has said that 80% of his troops are dead or wounded, and that they cannot rebuild the unit. Right now,
this is the kind of thing. It's like, I know that there's definitely factions within NATO that just want to stick with it until there's fucking nobody left. And you see that they're just going after average people in the country, just throwing them into the front lines with no training. It's just nightmarish to think about. But I think there are factions within NATO as well that recognize that they don't have a chance of actually winning. Like, I think there are factions within NATO that do recognize that. There seems to be kind of a split within the elites on what the correct strategy to go forward is.
Right now, Russians are killing Ukrainians at a ratio of either 1 to 5 or 1 to 8, depending on what data you believe.
I do think Marianne has an important role to play in this primary as well. Articulating this kind of like economic populist agenda. We all know Biden's not doing that. Obviously, Bernie's not going to do it either. Maybe he'll do it from the sidelines while Biden just puts on shades or whatever and ignores him. If RFK Jr. had never weighed in one way or the other, I feel like he'd be polling at like 75% right now. See, they're already freaking out in Slate. What to make of these alarming RFK Jr. polls? They're trying to downplay it already. The noted anti-vaxxer is getting significant support in presidential polls, but it may not be what it seems.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Hi, Rob. Hi, chat.
Hey, Squatch, hello. Squatch, what's up? Thank you for the 25 months of Tier 2 and for all the support, Squatch Drew. I appreciate it. How's it going? It's how are we going to stop this again? That's right. Not pleased if it's coming from Marianne. Well, this is the whole thing, right? It's like you've got this sort of somewhat anti-imperialist perspective or anti-war or anti-intelligence community perspective coming from RFK Jr., and you've got the economic populist viewpoint coming from Marianne Williamson. And you see how there's just been this complete refusal from the liberal elites to advocate for either one of these kind of like policies or either one of these sort of ideologies. They've completely just given up on fighting for either of these things and have endorsed being pro-war, pro-imperialism, and pro-austerity. And of course, there's a big audience for that, as there should be, because these are very popular viewpoints. So that's what happens. So like, there's no one in the fucking Democratic Party that's willing to make these arguments. So it's RFK Jr. and it's Marianne Williamson, who are far from perfect sort of avatars for this kind of argument. About to cook a late breakfast with some TRRS. That's nice, Squatch. What are you having? CNN wrote that about how he's faring.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Bonjour, Rob. Bonjour, friendship triangle. Looks like we get to save the world by voting for Joe Biden again.
That's right. You'll vote for Joe Biden. You'll vote for Joe Brandon, and you'll like it. Okay? Up the Reds. Thank you for the 15 months tier 1. Yeah, the Progressive Caucus got crushed. It's sad to say. I mean, they got played. You know, whatever merit there might have been to the argument, they're like, oh, we need to kind of cozy up to the establishment. We'll get these like committee assignments. We'll get to make the case for these progressive policies. They got played though. None of that led to anything. None of that meant anything. It fully just absorbed them into the power structure of the party, and whatever possible movement that they might have represented has just been absorbed into it as well. How bad is it for Ron DeSantis? He's pulling at RFK Jr.'s level. So the hidden information in there, while it's written in this anti-DeSantis way, things have gotten so bad for DeSantis that a recent Fox News poll shows him at 21%, comparable with the 19% that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has pushed debunked conspiracy theories about vaccine safety, is receiving on the Democratic side. The important thing, though, is that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. there is polling at 19%. You know, way, way out before the primary even really gets going, which I think is a fairly high number, you know, with both. And that's probably due to what? Like name recognition, but it's also the fact that he's articulating these viewpoints, which are not being articulated in the Democratic Party or in the liberal establishment. When it comes to, you know, the criticism of these intelligence community, or more than real headline is RFK Jr. is polling at DeSantis levels. DeSantis, who despite being a monstrous person, still has this massive sort of like media profile and is being pushed and promoted as the kind of like ideal establishment candidate. And then that's how you have Slate describing it. These alarming RFK Jr. polls. And that's the thing. If people are worried about why these poll numbers are so high for RFK Jr., they should take a look at what he's saying. Ignore the stuff about vaccines for now, but take a look at some of the other things that he's saying. Hash brown scrambled with black beans, arugula for greens, a kind of pico de gallo salsa, a bit of cheese melted into, and some faux meat breaded chicken chopped up in there. That sounds wonderful. That sounds tremendous. Great stuff. RFK Jr. and JFK Jr. This is what they took from us. This is what they took from us, Starlight. Let's take a look at this.
Earlier this week, President Biden announced that he'll seek the White House for a second term, but that's not stopping some challengers. And the latest entrant comes from political royalty. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. recently announced that he'll run against Biden, and he may have some supporters on his side. A new Fox News poll shows some 19% of likely Democratic voters say that they'd like to see RFK Jr. win the nomination.
Like, that's a big, that's got to be a big problem for Democrats, right? It's like, it's not even, it's not even the, it's 30%. 30% from RFK Jr. and Marianne, you know, this far away from an actual primary. Like, I think that to me is evidence that like Biden is in fucking trouble. People desperately want an alternative to Biden. So few people think that he should actually run. And like, does anyone really think that Biden will live through another presidential administration? Like, I suppose it's possible. I suppose anything's possible. But I think most people kind of recognize that that's like a little unlikely, you know? Not that I wouldn't wish for the long life for this man, but I think probably a lot of people recognize that's like really fucking unlikely. They got him on the stem cells, yeah. The stem cells and the presidential methamphetamines. President Kamala Harris is a little scary. Well, and as I've talked about many times, I know you're new to the community, clavicinist, but how that whole Democratic primary was just an effort to anoint anybody else other than Biden. They tried to anoint Kamala. They tried to anoint Pete Buttigieg, Beto, Elizabeth Warren, in conjunction with the party and their allies in the media. Like, everyone got a little time to shine in that top spot, and no one bought it. No one bought it. No, Bernie was the only one that could actually challenge Biden. And of course, that wasn't good enough for the establishment. Didn't want that. Of course. Klobuchar, of course. Yeah, that's right. And so none of that took off with anything. They managed to coalesce around Biden anyways. And then they're like, okay, well, let's put Kamala and we'll put Pete in these big, cushy administration gigs to give them even more FaceTime, even more media time, and give them some stuff to do. And surely they'll be able to take the reins 4 years from now. And no, still deeply unpopular. And every single thing that they've been asked to like handle has been just completely fucking made them look foolish. The bad thing is that when RFK and Williamson actually have valid points of criticism, they're just viewed as the kooks by the establishment, and any actual valid opinions will just be dismissed. Yeah, and that is a big problem as well. And that's why I think it's probably important, despite some of our misgivings about either of these candidates, to still take a serious look at like the things that they're saying, and like understand why these poll numbers are looking like this so far. You know, because they're saying things that are appealing to people. $19 is way more than I expected to see, but I would wager $5 that RFK will not be the next president. I don't really think that he will be either, but I do genuinely think there is a chance that he could, in sort of a Trumpian way, do better than anyone is expecting, if not win. I don't think it's unlikely at all. I wouldn't like this far out. With poll numbers looking like this, I wouldn't say like, no, there's no way. There's no way in hell. I think part of it is the name recognition, but I think part of it is because he's out there saying stuff that does connect with people. Kook opinions in a liberal democracy include not wanting to wage unlimited war on the global south and the working class, or suggesting that the intelligence community and the CIA has had a hand in like political assassinations in the country in the past. These wacky, nonsensical, conspiratorial ideas. I'm glad you used the Trump reference. RFK could totally wild out and get there. Yeah, I'm not going to go ahead and say, oh yeah, he's going to win or anything like that. But I certainly wouldn't want to just like dismiss it out of hand. Yeah, I wonder why Kennedy would think that. It's amazing. We haven't really gotten RFK pilled enough on here. We got very JFK pilled, but we've not taken a lot of time to dig into the RFK assassination. RFK will be Trump's running mate. Oh man, that would be like the perfect storm, if you will. Anyway, let's look at this little hit on RFK Jr. This was from the exclusive interview, ABC News, a couple days ago. Let's check it out.
Democratic voters say that they'd like to see RFK Jr. win the nomination. RFK Jr. is one of the biggest voices pushing anti-vaccine rhetoric, regularly distributing misinformation and disinformation about vaccines.
Notice how that's the first thing that comes up.
Experts overwhelmingly say are safe and effective based on rigorous scientific studies.
And it's not just the COVID vaccine as well. Like RFK Jr., I think, is like one of the leaders of the overall like anti-vax movement. Like it's not just the COVID vaccine that he's been talking about. So on the one hand, I don't totally agree about painting him exclusively with that brush, considering he is saying other things that I think are worth listening to. But I don't think we should lose sight of that as well. He's like literally one of the leaders of the anti-vax movement, like before the pandemic even started. RFK Jr. and Trump cue the Mega Powers clip with Macho Man and Hogan with the handshake. That'd be good.
But can a Kennedy break through in 2024? Will RFK Jr.'s controversial stances limit his appeal? I sat down with him earlier today to ask him about his campaign and trying to take on the president.
We'll see what he says
so
about
tell
it.
us, why did you decide to run for president?
I felt like my country was being taken away from me. I felt like I wanted my children to grow up with the same pride in our country and the same love.
No, I know.
Like our country and the same.
The anti-vax movement is not exclusively like a right-wing thing. I mean, it started really like with these like Californians and woo-woo libs, right? And the yoga moms and all that, you know, huge crossover there.
Idea that we had this, this idealism.
RFK is against all vaccines, including MMR, etc.
We had, communities that were filled with dignity and enrichment, and that we were an exemplary nation. And that those things
we know,
are
Lana.
being
We
lost. And they're being lost because, for a lot of reasons, but really because of the rise of corporatism in this country and this addiction that we have to war. And my party also is becoming the party of war.
Indigenous people, when this guy says, I feel like my country's been taken from me, they're doing the Maduro face.
Party of censorship, a party of fear. And the party of
someone was saying he does have some kind of medical condition that causes him to speak like that.
I just felt like I was in a unique opportunity to change that.
And how so? You've never held a political position before. Obviously, you've been in environmental law for more than 3 decades.
Has done some good things on environmental law, also worth pointing out as well.
I think I know more about how to fix regulatory agencies than any other politician.
Like if he was just talking about anti-war stuff and his pro-environment record, like that would be way more compelling, definitely.
In this country, because I've spent 40 years suing them. And when you sue a regulator, you get kind of a PhD in how they work and how to unravel this kind of culture of corporate capture and corruption. And there are ways we can fix these agencies, and we can do it very quickly.
Well, how would you do that? I want to just, because you've been very critical on multiple government agencies, from the CIA, the EPA, the DOT, the CDC, the FDA. If you were to become president, you would effectively be the boss of all of these agencies that you've cast so many aspersions on and said publicly that there's so much distrust there. How would you run them if you don't?
And opposes nuclear? There we go.
I think most of the people, 90% of the people in those agencies are good Americans. They're good public servants. They're patriots. They are idealistic, and they want to do their job. The problem is, the people who rise to power in those agencies usually are the people who are in the tank with industry, who are willing to carry water for the industry, and they're the ones that last for 50 years. They rise because they're willing to do favors for industry and take directions from industry.
Why do you feel that you should challenge Joe Biden?
I've known Joe Biden for 40 years. He's friends with my family. I've considered him a friend. His approach to government and to the Democratic Party is, to me, is completely, is different than the way I don't believe that we should be the party of war. I don't believe that we should be the party of Wall Street. I don't believe that we should let neocons dictate our foreign policy, and I don't believe in censorship, for starters. And those are all values that are traditional Democratic Party values that this White House has departed from.
The DNC has said, as you're well aware, that they are going to support.
I'm sorry if this is
Biden.
what
They're
this
not
man
gonna
sounds
even
like. It's not
hold
going to
any
happen. You
primary
should get the
debates.
cane.
Do you plan on pushing back on that?
The cane voice
Well, I
box.
think it's troubling that
would
if we
play.
don't have
That would play
debates.
well, I
mean,
think.
Particularly, Lindsay, at this point in history, there's so many Americans who believe that our democracy is broken, that the system is rigged against them. And I think it's really, incumbent on the Democratic Party to act as a template, to make this election a template for democracy, and saying, we're going to have debates, we're going to have open discussion, we're going to let the people decide. We're not going to have party leaders decide.
It's the same politics around vaccines as cane.
The other day when you made
That
your
could be a
announcement that you were
ticket.
going to run for president, you invoked
That's
your
reaching
dad
across
when
the
he was
aisle.
running for president back in 1968. I'd like to take a listen.
He was running against a president of his own party. He was running against a war. He was running he was running at a time of unprecedented polarization in our country. And he had no chance of winning. My father, when he declared, had not a single molecule in him that he believed that he could win the Democratic nomination.
Do you have a single molecule that you believe that you can win?
I actually think I can win. But, I'm not a soothsayer. I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to campaign. I'm going to talk to Americans. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. And then, it's in God's hands, whether I win or not. I'm going to take the action and do what I need to do.
If you don't win during the primary, would you consider an independent run?
I plan to win the primary. I'm going to run a campaign that is respectful to the president.
Definitely, if this guy had that Kennedy voice, that classic Kennedy voice, then I'd be like, he's probably, if he's not the favorite, he's got a good chance. I think that definitely he loses something in that. Absolutely.
But allows me to challenge him on the issues. And if people
get him Paul Heyman on the mic. There we go. Yeah.
To my view of what this country should look like and where it should be headed, then I'll win. If they don't, I don't think they're going to go away with any additional antipathy.
Hold on just one sec, folks.
There are those, as I'm sure you're aware, who have criticized or questioned just how loyal you are to the Democratic Party. Do you wholeheartedly, full-throated say, yes, I'm a Democrat?
I'm a Democrat. Otherwise, I wouldn't be running as a Democrat. But I am not loyal to any party above principles. I'm loyal to the principles that the Democratic Party has always stood for. That is why I am running for president today, to make sure that those people, those lost, forgotten Americans who feel this system is rigged against them, who feel forgotten by both political parties, that they feel like they can be included once again in the political process.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about you?
I think the public perception of me is just a bundle of misperceptions. Part of that is just not being vilified for 3 years without any, but much longer than that, but for the last 3 years with total blanket censorship. I welcome what I've done. I'm at peace with, with the choices that I've made.
And Lana, I agree. Please stop falling for these guys. I don't think anyone here is falling for this, but I think the point that I was kind of trying to get at is just that the way that establishment liberals have completely abdicated making certain cases, whether it's that economic populist case, which Marianne's now doing. Yeah, you like that, Squatch? Yeah. Or this kind of anti-CIA, anti-war, critical of the intelligence community, the neocons. Democrats have completely just given up on making these cases. And that's why I think it opens the door for people who have these very reactionary views in many ways to make these cases. you know? So I think that's the purpose of trying to look at this kind of stuff, is to pick apart the true things from the crankery, you know? And try to see like why these messages are appealing to people.
And I understand I'm living in a world where I'm opposing large forces that are very, very powerful and are able to silence me. But yeah, I wouldn't know where to begin in telling you where what the biggest misperceptions are about me. If you go through them one at a time, I'll answer them.
What do you think is the fairest criticism
Of me?
Yeah.
You can tell he's got some kind of media training to try and avoid talking about the vaccine stuff as much as possible. And she's kind of trying to get him to talk about it without openly saying it. And now you see the wheels turning. He's remembering earlier today talking to his publicist before the interview, don't talk about the vaccine shit. Don't talk about the vaccine shit. And right now in his brain is like, vaccines, come on. Come on. Stick to the script. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if he gives in.
I mean, listen, I've got as many defects as I do have assets. I told my wife I have more skeletons in my closet.
Is he a 5G
I have
truther?
so many that if they could vote, I could, win president of the world by a landslide. So
That's
I'm
not something
a
you want to
guy
admit.
who's coming to you and saying I'm a.
I saw some gray zone guy that I used to follow who has gone so far into this like conspiracy world. Oh, fuck, what was his name? There's this one gray zone person that I used to follow that I hadn't thought about or checked in on in like years. And I went to his profile the other day and it was full, space is fake, Not the moon landing was fake, not the moon is fake. Space itself is fake. And all of NASA is engaged in some kind of like cover up. that is spicy. Yeah. Just did a quick search and RFK Jr. is also into 5G stuff. And you know what? I feel like Marianne probably is as well. I want to know about this. I'm going to try and find it. I really went to this guy's profile the other day and I was like, whoa, oh my goodness. This is some advanced conspiracy shit that I've never even thought of. We live under a firmament. Yeah, obviously the sky is like a black cloth and it has little holes in it, and the stars are the light coming through the holes. The man doesn't want you to know about this. Kyrie Irving works in the gray zone. You think society can become so insane that there's no way back? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And again, I always go back to, I find it so interesting during those final days of the Soviet Union, when the Soviet Union was on the verge of collapsing, all the wacky shit that people started to believe and talk about on TV. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. The whole dying empire thing. It's like people know they're being lied to and question everything, which is good, but they aren't tethered to any rational basis, so it's all ideology soup. The government is lying about everything, including space. Yeah. I really want to find this. I'm going to try and find it.
Perfect human being. I'm not.
I swear I'm not making this up.
I've had a rich life, let me put it that way. I'm coming here because I believe in something, and I think people know that if I believe in something, that number one, you can change my mind if you confront me with facts. Number two, if you don't change my mind with facts, I'm going to stick to my guns, and nobody can move me.
So you say this, but then there are known conspiracy theorists like Alex Jones, Steve Bannon. You go on their talk shows and at the same time tell America that media is lying to you.
Well,
how do you square that with voters?
First of all, those are two different issues. The one issue is, should I be talking to Republican platforms? That's a completely different issue. When I go on those platforms, I'm not lying to people. I'm telling the truth.
But you legitimize the platforms.
It doesn't matter. To me, There's no way that you can overcome the polarization without talking to people on the other side. How do you, and I've done that my whole life. When I was, 30 years, one of the leading environmentalists in the country, I was the only environmentalist who would go on Fox News. And some environmentalists would say, you shouldn't go on there, it legitimizes them. And I said, I want to talk to that audience. If we don't talk to them, how can we persuade them? So I will talk to anybody.
You've said in the past that there is a correlation between vaccines leading to autism. That's totally been debunked.
Wait a minute, who debunked it?
We have not seen any kind
Oh,
of
there he is,
scientific
getting into it now.
connection from the CDC, the World Health Organization, the National
Those
Academy of
organizations
Sciences.
are captive agencies, Lindsay.
And so you think they're all in cahoots?
He's getting mad.
They're all captive.
You've discussed the Kennedy family as like
He's
any
getting
family.
mad.
There are disagreements. But I think what makes it different...
That seemed like a cut. It seemed like there was a cut there.
You've discussed the Kennedy family, CDC, the World Health Organization, the National
Those
Academy of Sciences.
organizations are captive agencies, Lindsay.
And so you think they're all in cahoots?
Yeah, they're all captive.
You've discussed the Kennedy...
That's they totally. He was about to say something. They edited it out. You see the publicist off the camera going.
The CDC, the World Health Organization, the National
Those
Academy of
organizations
Sciences.
are captive agencies, Lindsay.
And so you think they're all in cahoots?
Yeah, they're all captive.
You've discussed the Kennedy family as like any family. There are disagreements. But I think what makes it different here is that several of your relatives have not just said that they disagree with you, but they've called you dangerous. And as you're probably well aware, there were two of your siblings and a niece who wrote in a Politico article back in 2019. He's helped to spread dangerous misinformation over social media and is complicit in sowing distrust of science behind vaccines. We stand behind him in his ongoing fight to protect our environment. However, on vaccines, he's wrong. Your sister Carrie has said, I love my brother Bobby, but I do not share or endorse his opinions on many issues, including the COVID pandemic, vaccinations, and the role of social media platforms in policing false information. Your sister Rory has said, I admire his past work on it as an environmentalist. Because of him, we can swim in the Hudson, but due to a wide range of Bobby's positions, I'm supporting President Biden. I'm just curious, if you are not able to get your own sisters to vote for you for president, how would you make that appeal to American voters?
What is your family like? Do they agree with everything that you say and do?
They'd probably vote for me if I ran for president.
Yeah, well, I have siblings who will vote for me as well, but I have a big family, and many of them will not. I have two siblings who came to my announcement, and a lot of other relatives as well. But I mean, there's disagreements. But I love my family, and
He was
my
seconds away from
family
saying something spicy there.
In particular, we grew up arguing with each other, and we are very, very, I think, say, comfortable disagreeing with each other, both publicly and privately, on issues, and at the same time loving each other. And that's something that I think is a lesson that we ought to learn for this country. We can disagree with each other without hating each other, without vilifying each other, without marginalizing each other.
I'm just making a distinction on just using your family's words, calling you dangerous. I was just using your family's words to call you dangerous, rather than saying that's not like the typical family that might have disagreements around the kitchen table.
And how do you expect me to respond to that, other than saying they were wrong about the issue, that they consider me dangerous?
Oh, that's a fair response. And my other point is just that if you don't regard the same scientific authorities...
Science is rarely static. There are very few scientific principles that are immovable. Science is dynamic. And, look, I've
should ask him about space.
I've litigated
The space is
over
fake
500
conspiracy.
lawsuits. In every one of those lawsuits, there are experts, authorities on one side, and experts and authorities on the other that are saying the exact opposite thing. So no, I don't trust authority. I need to see the details. I need to see the science.
Your final pitch to voters.
My pitch would be that, we need to look at what's happened to our country. We need to try to arrest this emergence of corporatism, of the corrupt merger of state and corporate power that's undermining our values, that's strip mining our landscapes, that is stealing the assets of the middle class of this country, that is compromising the values of this country, that's keeping us in a constant state of war, and that is creating a nation that doesn't resemble the nation that we all love, which is a nation with a few handful of billionaires and widespread poverty, in which democracy does not have a prayer of continuing. And let's try to.
You really you really do see the crankery, though, right? You see the truths mixed in with the fiction and how these people are able to kind of like succeed. And Trump was the same way, right? Trump was the exact same way. That's why I think it's in kind of an interesting analogy. The possible RFK to Trump analogy, because Trump would say a lot of things that were true as well. When Trump would criticize these big institutions, when Trump would criticize NATO, when Trump would criticize NAFTA, all these kinds of things. This whole thing of we got a lot of killers. You think this country's so innocent? That's what gives these people credibility. And despite not having that kind of like theoretical basis that leads to any of these conclusions, and leading people down these other paths of reaction, or leading into these like weird cul-de-sacs. Trump was funny with it. That's right. Trump's really his greatest asset. Truly his greatest asset.
Let's try to take a new path that will allow us to give our children a country that is, once again, a moral authority around the globe, an exemplary nation, and that has a booming middle class in this country that can sustain democracy.
We should note that during our conversation, Kennedy made false claims about the COVID-19 vaccines. Data shows that the COVID-19 vaccines prevented.
Yeah, and like you're saying, Lana, it should be. I think that kind of like articulating that anti-vaccine or COVID denialist viewpoint is genocidal, considering the body count. And I would be interested to know Marianne's views on that as well. I'm sure she's very cagey with it, even though she's making this like populist argument as well. Big Pharma won't let him win. But I mean, there was powerful forces that lined up against Trump too. And it's like he did steamroll them all. Partly that's because he wasn't really a threat to power in the same way that like someone like Bernie was. But that's the thing. Is RFK Jr. a real threat to like the ruling class or the power structures in America? Probably not, He uses that kind of language to kind of gain a certain credibility, but ultimately, is he part of an op himself? I think that's a good question as well. I'm really looking at this. I wish I had bookmarked this. I like this anti-imperialist guy that I followed that got really into the fake space. I wish I could now find it, but I can't. I just can't fucking remember who it was. Great story. This is great content, by the way, when I try to struggle to recall something and am not able to do that. And this is a good point as well, Moss. The anti-vaxxers who claim to believe science haven't been advocating for masks, proper ventilation, or an air purification for all, tells me all I need to know. Yeah. Or if you're not talking about Medicare for all as well. If you're not talking about universal health care also. If you're anti-vax because you're against big pharma, but you're not pro just nationalizing these companies, you hate big pharma so much, maybe you should get involved in instituting single-payer healthcare or abolishing these like private companies. How about that? America has gone insane. I mean, all of this is just, from Trump onwards, I think that's really when the dying empire vibes became just impossible to ignore. Like it was already happening, the dying empire vibes, Occupy, Wall Street, the financial crisis, Ferguson, and these big protests. Like it was there, but I think with Trump it became palpable, and now it's just completely unmistakable. Now it's completely unmistakable. The stench of dying empire. Why don't we place the deck chairs in this arrangement? Yeah, we'll just rearrange those. Maybe that's going to help. Maybe that's going to do something. Trump just risked the mask off. I mean, that's part of it too, right? It's just, and that's part of the reason I've said it many times, even though I don't like Trump personally, even though I do find him funny and entertaining, but horrible person, monstrous person. But I do appreciate how he would be honest about the ways that some of these power structures function. And he refused to play this game of like using the code words and the progressive language or rhetoric about all this stuff. Like he would just say the way that things are. That's what made people so mad at him, you know? That's what made people so mad, the fact that he would expose these things. I think the main takeaway, though, from looking at RFK and Marianne and everything with Biden right now, and even though they're trying to all coalesce around Biden to make it as easy as possible for him to win, I think the Democrats are in big trouble. It was interesting on the Insurgents podcast this week. We talked to Molly Jong Fast, who's kind of more of like a sort of an establishment, she's like a liberal journalist or podcaster. She's like kind of an MSNBC type. And was kind of like trying to make this case about how evil the Republicans were and how easy the choice is. But, I brought one thing that I was kind of happy about that interview is that I did bring up a lot of the ways that Biden is completely failing to deliver on any of these big agendas. And talking about this idea about getting the credit for saying rather than actually doing, and how a lot of the time they say, look, they advocate for like universal pre-K and they advocate for all these good things, but like don't actually follow through on any of these things.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Nice shirt, Rob. TRRS Rob Knife.
Thank you, Ms. Squatch. It's so cute how the Squatch Drew and Ms. Squatch both come through to resub on the same day. I love that. Mariana Bros are rude, so I support RFK now. But in that interview, though, from this week that I was happy with, I think I was able to articulate this kind of idea about how Biden is in deep trouble, about how they've like completely failed to deliver on this agenda despite maybe using more progressive language, and how cynical that makes people, especially young people that went and like voted in droves for the Democrats like in this midterm election. This cynicism sets in, and if it is Trump, I mean, that's a Trump-Biden campaign where Biden is like sitting on this like complete record of like not a lot of accomplishments, not instituting the big agenda he ran on, saying they're going to do these big things with student debt and the environment and then not doing it, opening up drilling in the Arctic, dismantling whatever social safety net was put in place like during the pandemic under Trump. Inflation has gone up, millions still dying of COVID. This is what he's going to be overseeing. And then you're going to have Trump again with all the same energy and the same media attention. Like, I don't know. I think Democrats are really like, despite how they're trying to rig the game already and trying to say like, no, we're not going to have any debates. Bernie just endorses Biden right away. There's going to be no fuckery. We're just uniting behind one candidate right away. I think they're like headed to a situation that very well may not play out the way they think it's going to. I was super generous and advocated for diplomacy with this admin for years, but I can't do it. Same with me, Matt. I mean, anyone can go back to what I was saying in 2 years ago. Like, I was willing to think that, they at least understood what the failures were of the Obama era and we're not going to repeat the same mistakes. And we're like actually genuine about trying to institute this like bigger, bolder agenda that would actually like help them, not only help millions of people's lives, but help them win. And it's like, yeah, I thought he'd do one good thing. And it's just been time and time again. It's been nonstop failure. So this is what this is what they're walking into. And by the way, I got to thank everyone. I know I'm wearing my Let's Go Brandon shirt. I got to really give a shout out though to all our ironic memers who like, I get that the whole Dark Brandon thing was like funny at first. But then you had all these people, these like former people that are like, oh, I'm progressive or socialist or whatever. Then starting to just like unironically do pro Biden memes, like a lot of the same people that were getting mad at me the other day for talking about Bernie endorsing Biden. And now you have Biden himself. Getting in on it. And all these people were like,
Roy, the podium is yours. I'm going to be fine with your jokes, but I'm not sure about Dark Brandon.
Congratulations. Congratulations to the Biden bro meme crew. You fucking played yourself. You played yourself. You know, all the people that have been doing this, like as a joke at first, yeah, okay, it was somewhat funny, but then you have these people that like, oh, Biden's doing student debt. They're like unironically doing the like Dark Brandon memes, and you've got the fucking president himself putting on the shades and calling himself Dark Brandon at the White House press correspondence dinner, and all these like cool fucking hipsters that have been pushing this are just like, I don't know, with zero cognitive dissonance. I don't know. Pretty fucking lame to me. I agree. Yeah. If you're not going to do the laser eyes IRL and get out like a rifle or something. This is a good point deletion quarter as well. When people compare Corbyn to Sanders, one of those people was kicked out of the party and the other continues to be their lapdog. They're not the same. I mean, I think that's a good point. And the question is like, as a question of strategy, what has Bernie bending over backwards to work with the Democratic Party? What has that actually like gotten? Like it's shifted the discourse in a certain way. It's maybe popularized, I think the most generous we can be. It's popularized certain ideas. It has, I would say, inspired a lot of grassroots activism and people that are like running in progressive campaigns and like local elections and things like that. And, you know, there's people organizing on the ground around a number of issues. You know, these are positive, but like what has in terms of like the legislative side of things, like in the US government, what is Bernie's like steadfast efforts to be like a loyal spokesperson for the Brandon agenda? What has that actually resulted in? Again, all those big economic populist ideas that were in that that he campaigned on, you know, with the Build Back Better campaign and the Build Back Better agenda. There was a lot of legitimately great shit in that, which Bernie was there banging the drum on, trying to drum up support for it. And you have one senator or two senators in Sinema and Manchin who are probably just stand-ins for a number of other conservative Democrat senators that don't want to participate in this agenda at all. And we're probably just like absorbing all the bad headlines for it. But you have your own party vetoing that agenda while Sanders is there supporting it. Sanders is there like on the media banging the drum for this agenda. You have Biden's own party saying no for it. And then but instead of like going after the people in his own party that are fucking him over, that are stabbing him in the back by literally, you know, not supporting his agenda, instead of like going after these people, Biden fucking congratulates them. Well, you know, he didn't have a word to say about it. Whereas I think we all know if the roles were reversed and if Biden was like putting out some kind of like moderate centrist economic policy and Bernie Sanders was the only person upholding it, there would be this nonstop laser focused media attack campaign going after him for his intransience. Like it's just completely night and day because of the ideological sort of like makeup in these movements. And then you have Corbyn just getting completely kicked out of the Labour Party. Like Corbyn's not having any influence in the Labour Party ever, but at least he's like sticking to his actual principles. And he's not participating or sheepdogging people into this like party that very clearly is openly hostile to what he advocates for. Yeah, and out on picket lines every day as well. as we pointed out the other day, Bernie, when the one thing he said about that rail strike, he had one thing to support the rail strike 5 days before his good friend Joe Brandon broke the strike. You know, Bernie's done a number of things that are really positive for labor. I don't want to take that away, but it's Biden. He's out there being a mouthpiece for the Biden administration who are breaking strikes. In addition to all the other fucking horrible things they're doing, the more money to police, you know, the endless funds for Ukraine, arms going to Ukraine. I mean, Bernie and the progressive movement is totally on board with all these things. And they're not getting anything in return except, you know, like committee assignments. Yeah, deletion corridor. I mean, that is the ultimate lesson of the Corbyn movement. You got to purge all these they're not your friends, you know? The people in these bourgeois parties, they're not your friends, even if they act like it. They've got their knives are out for you from moment one. You got to get rid of these people. They'll do the same thing to you, as we've seen when the Labour Party under Keir Starmer. They have no issues with purging people, either candidates or members of the party. You know, they've been purging like elderly Jewish women who are anti-Zionist from the Labour Party, while at the same time like claiming to be fighting against anti-Semitism. Like, it's just fucking nonsense. Yeah. You got to purge. Got to purge, folks. If Corbyn even hinted about trying to purge, you'd be cooed within 0.5 seconds. And you know what? Like, if that's the case, I think that's still worth it, you know? Because then what does that expose to people? It's that these liberal democracies are fake. And you can't actually vote for someone that's going to meaningfully claw back power from the very powerful private forces that like control our society. It's not possible. And so if someone gets voted on that kind of platform, they take power and they start to act on that and they get cooed immediately. I think that exposes the kind of facade that our so-called democracy is to a lot of people. What else do we have to look at? I keep going back to this, but I really do want to find that person that's really on the fake space tip. It's really bothering me now. I wish I could find it. They even tried that shit on Bernie here. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's not deferential enough towards Israel. So yeah, Bernie the anti-Semite. I know they tried that. It's like this. They just throw shit at the wall to see what sticks. With Corbyn, it was the anti-Semitism thing, and with Bernie, it was like the angry sexist Bernie Bros thing, and that's the thing that stuck. And it's just like once they realize something that sticks, they keep hitting on the same thing over and over and over again. And I think another big lesson of the Corbyn movement is when that smear campaign is going on, you can't feed into it. Corbyn thought he could be Mr. Nice Guy and try and suggest that there was some validity to these claims, or that the people that were making these claims about anti-Semitism actually cared about anti-Semitism, which was never true. They cared about destroying Corbyn. But Corbyn is nice. He's like a fundamentally decent, good person, and assumed that these accusations were being made in good faith. And then he tried to bend over backwards to appease those people. And then the moment that he started trying to do that, they knew that they had him. And then they just kept going and kept going and kept going. It was like 5 fucking years of that stuff. You know, convincing normal, like average people that this person's some kind of like terrorist loving anti-Semite, like basically a Nazi, this like lifelong anti-racist campaigner who campaigned against apartheid in the 80s, like on picket lines, you know? And you have the British media establishment going on this fucking rampage about he's an anti-Semite. And that's the thing. It's he fed into it. Novara and all these kind of progressive media establishments fed into it. The Owen Joneses of the world, you know?
This is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Hello, Majority Report. Welcome. Hello. Lovely fella, Rob. What a nice chat from Logan9. I'm Rob, everybody. Look at this. Look at this guy. Look at how cool this guy is. Thank you very much for the raid, Majority Report. I appreciate that.
Roy, the podium is yours. I'm going to be fine with your jokes, but I'm not sure about Dark Brandon.
Hell yeah. We love memes. We love memes of the right-wing president of the United States, the conservative right-wing president, who has exclusively acted on like these like generously moderate, or more accurately reactionary and right-wing values. Anyway, hello again from the Majority Report Raiders. Welcome in. Please smash the follow button. Please smash the follow button if you have not already. As you can see, I'm Rob. I really appreciate the raid from our friends at Majority Report. Don't hesitate to smash the follow button. The Lucerno book starts rattling in the shelf like the telltale heart. Why did you waste so much time talking with Jessica Burbank about the economy when that was clearly meant to be a sports episode? I agree. I think we should have gone all the way with that. Totally agree. Here's a question for the Majority Report Raiders. Space, is it fake? How about that? You know, not is the moon landing fake? You know, is the moon a hologram or whatever? No, space itself. Real or not real? This is the big controversial discussion. The controversial forbidden conspiracy that we're starting to unravel. Outer space is real. Okay, that's a bold take. A bold take from Joint Specialist. Source for this claim? Inner Space was a cool movie. Was that the one with Dennis Quaid? Space is the final frontier. That's right. Real isn't real, so if space is real, then it's fake. How could space be real if your eyes aren't real? How about that? What do we think about that? Hello, GPA Boost. What is up? Trust me, I'm a professor. This is Professor Slow in the name. What is up with you? We're just chatting today. We're just chatting. I'm pretty low energy today. I really think I have to go back to the daily energy drink, the daily streaming energy drink. Just kind of looking for something we can look at next. Oh, here's another thing that I wanted to watch. While we're talking about, I think this actually fits in with our theme we're looking at today of like, you know, we talked about RFK Jr. and we're talking about the way that there's these kind of cranks that are making, I think, appealing cases about certain subjects, which they use to disguise their more reactionary tendencies. This clip from J.D. Vance, I found this really remarkable as well. And this is yet another area, like we talked about, the sort of economic populist argument, and the way that Marianne Williamson is the only one really like talking about this vision, this like economic populist vision, whereas the whole Biden administration has kind of given up on it. We've talked about RFK Jr. Advocating for this like anti-war, critical of the intelligence community viewpoint, which the Democratic Party and the Biden administration has completely like embraced. The opposite version of that, I mean, and the way that like because of this sort of the way that this responsibility for talking about these things with any kind of nuance has been completely abdicated, it opens the doors for RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson to come in and make these arguments. And I was really stunned by this clip from J.D. Vance. And again, I think this is an area where it's due to the failure of liberals to make these cases that I think it opens the door for people like J.D. Vance to make this case, in this case about China and about American foreign policy, which I think for a lot of people is going to be compelling. Yeah, and to be clear, IMO Jenny, this is not to say that like because RFK Jr. makes cases about war or the intelligence community that I agree with, that I think he's like a good person, or that he doesn't have really harmful and reactionary views in other directions. But it's what we're kind of talking about is the way that the liberal establishment has kind of given up on talking about these things, which has opened the door for people like that. And it opened the door for Trump as well. That's why Trump was popular in the first place as well, because he was saying true things that really resonated with a lot of people, in addition to a lot of the bullshit and a lot of the really reactionary tendencies, right? So look at this clip from J.D. Vance and try to imagine hearing something like this from a Democrat or from a liberal or from someone in the NDP in Canada or the Labour Party in the UK. No one like remotely to the left of center is making this kind of case. Watch this from J.D. Vance, who's an absolute ghoul on a number of levels. An absolute fucking ghoul. But watch this and try to imagine someone in the Democratic Party. Imagine AOC saying this. How about that? How about that for an example? Imagine, watch this clip from J.D. Vance and imagine AOC saying these words, like word for word.
We have built a foreign policy of hectoring and moralizing and lecturing countries that don't want anything to do with it. The Chinese have a foreign policy of building roads and bridges and feeding poor people. And I think that we should pursue a foreign policy, a diplomacy of respect, and a foreign policy that is not rooted in moralizing. It's rooted in the national interest of this country.
And you see there in the last spread how he's leading people down this path of like nationalism and reaction. This is how you get National Socialism for sure. Exactly. Like, and again, I think that's the kind of theme of what we've been talking about here, is about the ways that there's the refusal to talk about these things from the liberal establishment leaves the door open for people to take that mantle and say things that I think are actually very important. This bit about I thought this is incredible. And this is just not something you would ever hear a liberal say.
The Chinese have a foreign policy of building roads and bridges and feeding poor people.
Like, I think that's a pretty remarkable statement, honestly, considering this anti-China climate that's going on right now, which again, liberals and progressives are gleefully participating in. You had some of the most progressive members of Congress, Ilhan Omar, in the run-up to the Olympics, for the Democratic Party, has a very solid and respectable and principled critique of American foreign policy. Ilhan Omar, in the run-up to the Olympics in China, was promoting this like billboard that suggested that China is engaged in this like Nazi-style Holocaust right now. You have AOC meeting with like Tibetan dissident groups and things like that. So it's during this kind of like climate where the most progressive members of the Democratic Party are participating in this kind of anti-China rhetoric, then you have Peter Thiel funded fucking ghouls like this guy out there talking about the Chinese foreign policy of building roads and bridges and feeding poor people, which is correct. Like that's a factually correct statement. So I think this is kind of the problem here, as we see it, right? All these people are being enabled. These people that like don't have good views. It's the same thing with Tucker Carlson. It's the same thing with Trump. You know, principled anti-imperialist Tucker Carlson. No one should believe that. But we should also understand when Tucker Carlson says things that do have merit, especially when it comes to foreign policy, and recognize the way that like that is he has the opportunity to do that because no one on the other side is out there making these cases. Or like people are doing it, like people are pointing out, but not people like within the establishment of these big liberal bourgeois parties. Like this is honestly, like considering the anti-China climate right now, which is like huge in the conservative movement, to say nothing of the liberal establishment, I thought this was a pretty remarkable statement in the run up to this like whole Taiwan conflict, you know? And probably I could guess that if you go into the comments under a quote like this from JD Vance, you're going to see a bunch of like liberals or Democrats criticizing him for being soft on China and promoting the whole like the coming Taiwan conflict that these bloodthirsty imperialists are trying to provoke. You know? So none of this is to say that I think Tucker Carlson or Donald Trump or JD Vance or even like RFK Jr. or people are worthwhile people that would be great leaders. But I do think we need to ask ourselves like why this gap exists that allows these people to come in and make true statements mixed in with all their wacky ideas or reactionary ideas. But we think about life like sports teams. That's right. China, Taiwan, the sequel to Russia, Ukraine coming soon. Well, I fucking hope even the most fervent nationalists in Taiwan are paying very close attention to what's going on in Ukraine right now and maybe rethinking some of their long-term strategies about whether they should be allowing America to pump arms into their nation and use them as this proxy to take on China, who is in the process of surpassing them economically. And what happens? What Taiwanese nationalists and even the most fervent nationalists and separatists, to say nothing of just the average folks that want the status quo to continue, should be paying very close attention to what happens when you agree to become a U.S. proxy. Ukrainians are paying the price for that right now. Ukrainians have been paying the price for agreeing to be U.S. proxies for the last year and a half. It's been devastating for millions of people. So I hope other Taiwanese or other possible Western proxies are paying very close attention to that and what actually happens when you get your wish and you get your big conflict to promote your sort of ethno-nationalist vision, backed by and armed by and fueled by the West. Well, IMO Jenny, here's what I always say when this comes up. Russia's an imperial power. Does Ukraine want to be a Russian proxy? If you look at what Russia's actually said about this, they don't want Ukraine to be a Russian proxy. They want it to be neutral. They've been really clear on that for like 2 decades now. They've been really clear. They just don't want Ukraine to be this Ukraine who used to be a close ally, a central part of their society. They just don't want Ukraine to become a pro-NATO, pro-EU, pro-Western country, and they want it to be neutral. They've been very, very clear on that. And that has been stymied at every single way by NATO, by America and Canada and these Western imperialist powers. And when you talk about imperialism, imperialism is not just invading another country. It's not when one country invades another country. It's the export of capital, right? It's controlling global systems of information. Russia doesn't have 700 military bases around the world. The United States of America does. Like, that's an imperialist power. The country that dominates the whole world militarily and culturally and economically, and has had this iron-fisted grip on the global financial system and economic system, that are struggling right now to prevent this kind of de-dollarization process that's going on. That's the world's foremost imperial power by like it's not even close. It's not even remotely close. And as we talked about and argued about endlessly yesterday, you don't have to like hand it to Russia or to Putin or to think that Putin is a good guy. But you do have to acknowledge, though, that Western imperialists, i.e. NATO, and Canada and the U.S. and these Western countries have been violating peace agreements. They've been pumping billions of dollars of arms to train these militias in eastern Ukraine for the last 10 years. And we don't have to we don't have to think that the invasion was good or moral, or we don't have to hand it to Putin. But I think what we do, this is the point that I was making yesterday, the point that I've continually tried to make over the last 2 years that we've been talking about this. I think we should be able to understand how Russia would view some of our actions in eastern Ukraine as being a threat to their security. I think we all know what would happen if a foreign power was pumping billions of dollars of arms into like Cuba, for example, or like arming indigenous Hawaiians to fight a civil war against the state in Hawaii, or anything like that. I think we all know what that was going on off America's coast. America would have bombed that place into oblivion years ago, whereas this process has been going on in Ukraine for years and years and years. So I think we have to have we have to really acknowledge that. We have to acknowledge the role that we've played in that, in escalating that, and into provoking it. And we don't have to say that like, oh, that means that the invasion is good, or that war is good, or that I'm now a Russian chauvinist. We don't have to do that, but we do have to acknowledge the role that we've played in it. I don't want to get too down that rabbit hole, though, because we do relitigate this pretty often. I think we covered this ground pretty extensively yesterday, so I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole of talking about this yet again, the role that the West and that NATO has played in provoking this conflict. Hello, Danger Dave Ball. What is up? This ground gets covered all the time, since I bet 95% of the West is in agreement that Russia is the aggressor in the war. And I think that's one of the reasons, like, people have pointed out for me, they've taken my old tweets and they've searched from Rob Rousseau, Ukraine, and said like, well, he never denounces Russia, or he never denounces this crime, or never says anything that like counteracts this narrative. But it's like, the reality is, for me, it's like, I don't think anyone needs me to throw kindling onto that. If you want to get that viewpoint, the Russia bad viewpoint, there's more than enough places in our media and on Twitch and Twitter, wherever else, that you can get that kind of analysis. I don't really feel like I'm contributing anything to contribute to this massive like blob, which is in total agreement on this. And my point has always been that I think it's important to kind of articulate a differing perspective of that. So, and people will say like, well, I have to denounce this in order to gain credibility, but I don't think that ever really works that way. I think usually you're just co-signing the sort of narrative as it is, and then you're trying to weasel out and have this, articulate this differing viewpoint. But you've already kind of like undercut your whole argument by automatically giving up before you kind of start making the case. So that's always been my sort of my stance on that, about why I want to frame the issue this way and why I want to focus on these things. There's more than enough Russia bad coverage out there. If anyone wants to check that out, there's no shortage of Twitch streams and Twitter posters and Substack people and professional journalists that are covering that beat, you know? But if Putin bad, how can NATO be bad too? It's perplexing. It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in an enigma. I noticed in the language around Russia, they always throw in unprovoked and primary aggressor, and it's very much a people asking a lot of questions already answered by my shirt situation, for sure. And that's one thing that Chomsky, I think, has been valuable on. I know Chomsky's canceled now, and should be, frankly, for a meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, which is sketchy as fuck, but also says some important, worthwhile things about this that I think we should still listen to while acknowledging that he's a weird fucker in a number of other ways. But as Chomsky pointed out, sorry, I lost my train of thought and got it back. As Chomsky pointed out, they wouldn't be, if it was unprovoked, the people in the media and politics wouldn't need to say the unprovoked Russian invasion and all the headlines and all the newspaper articles and all the sound bites and all the unprovoked Russian invasion. If it was unprovoked, they wouldn't need to say that over and over and over again. Like, they're doing that for a reason, right? Folks, I should mention, okay, I'm going on 2 hours, 20 minutes here. Again, haven't really gotten up this whole time. Haven't really taken a break. And I should just take this moment to briefly remind people, especially our new viewers and possible lurkers and community members, that if you think this commentary is valuable to have on Twitch, I talked about the consensus on Russia, Ukraine, or a lot of other political issues in our media. Jenny, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Seriously, it really seems like people here are tying themselves in knots to avoid admitting that genocide is bad. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Here, are you ready for this? Genocide is bad. I agree. Does that make you feel better? I totally agree with that. I know it's a really bold stance. But I'm willing to make these bold stances. Folks, if you enjoy this community and this program, TRRS, please, I encourage you, if you can, the only way that I'm able to keep this program on the air, the only way that I'm able to keep, articulating this kind of viewpoint, which, as I've mentioned before, is kind of counter to a lot of the ways that the Discord, these subjects go in our discourse. If you think that that's a good thing, the only way that I am able to continue doing this program and engaging in this kind of commentary is through the endless generosity of our wonderful chatters and supporters and community supporters such as Gen X Bushy. Thank you, Gen X Bushy, for the 2 gifted subs. I really appreciate that. So if you can,
count on me,
folks,
you're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Cut Man, thank you for the tier 1 sub as well. I appreciate that, Cut Man. So if you enjoy the content, folks, I encourage you, please subscribe to TRRS. It costs $5 per month or is completely free of charge with an Amazon Prime account. Completely free of charge. You get all the amazing emotes that are available on this channel. You've got a wonderful community known as the Friendship Triangle. This is Twitch's only 2-dimensional triangle-shaped friendship access and trickle-down clout tiered reward system. The only such system that exists on Twitch. Frozen Basalt, thank you for the 8 months of Prime. Totally free of charge. Totally free of charge when you subscribe with Amazon Prime like that. If it does sound like a pyramid scheme, as you can see directly below me, not at all. Not at all. It says, and if it was, I would tell you, believe me. It's not a cult. If you call it a cult, we'll be forced to sacrifice you to the great rib. That's absolutely correct. It's a triangle scheme. Again, I'm a little uncomfortable with the word scheme. I'm a little uncomfortable with the word scheme in there. We didn't even talk about the Dune 2 trailer. No, we didn't. No, we did not. I mentioned that I was going to watch that and then just kind of completely forgot. I guess that's something we could do. We could do that. But please, I must give one final call. One final call. Was Dune 1 good? I enjoyed it a lot. I would like to watch it again. I would actually maybe like to go see it in IMAX. I haven't even seen the Lynch. I think that was, interestingly, that was my takeaway from the newer Dune movie, was that it made me miss some things about the David Lynch version. I think there's a lot to like. It's not perfect, the David Lynch version. It's definitely flawed. But there's a lot to like about it, though, especially in terms of the production design. It's got some of the coolest production design. So even though I enjoyed the Denis Villeneuve one, I thought it made me want to revisit the David Lynch version, and especially the visually, I thought it was way more interesting. I just finished the book. I read the first bunch of books, 20 years ago. I read...
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Lennon Smesh, thank you for the gifted sub. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Villeneuve Dune helped make the Lynch Dune make more sense. Yeah, I think so. Like that was the whole problem with the Lynch version, is that trying to fit all that story into one movie, I think, was really tricky, and all the mythology and stuff, and it came off really clunky. Yeah, I did read Dune, Messiah, and Children of Dune. I think I might have given up halfway through God Emperor. I don't think I made it all the way through. I respect David Lynch for, trying that, for sure. And there's some fucking fascinating stuff in there. I love some of the visual effects. I love some of the production design, the guild navigators, the shield suits, the whole still suits. Like, the fucking production design is fantastic in that. Let's check this out. No more news. No more news. Okay, let's see. No more news. There may be some more nudes. I don't want to guarantee anything about that. This is my first time reacting. First time watching this.
It's breathtaking. When you see sand here, imagine water.
Oh, shit.
You dive in.
I should probably let you see it too. Right? I should probably let the chat see it as well, and not just me. You don't want to just see me. I gotta say, I like Timothée Chalamet. He's got a kind of charisma. He's got a charisma that I think leaps off the screen. He's got the it factor.
It's breathtaking. When you see sand here, imagine water. If you dive in, you can't reach the bottom.
You dive in.
Yes, it's called swimming.
I don't believe you.
In the shadows of Arrakis lie many secrets. But the darkest of them all may remain. The end of House Atreides.
Your father didn't believe in revenge.
What if Paul Atreides were still alive?
There he is. We got Fade and Robin showing up.
Have you ever had a dream about your first ride?
Don't try to impress anyone. You're brave, we all know that. Be simple. Be direct.
Worm.
Nothing fancy.
I understand.
We got Worm.
Nothing fancy.
You will never lose me, Paul Atreides.
We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope!
May thy knife chip and shatter.
Okay. Okay. Dunk. We love Dunk, don't we?
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to.
House
talk
Atreides
you
has
through
been
all
very
this.
nasty.
The Dune agenda rules us all.
Thank you, Pac-Man Trinity, for the 9 months tier 1. House Atreides has been very nasty. Very nasty to the Harkonnens. I'm going to check out the first one. I definitely think, because I liked it. You know, I watched it at home. I think a legally downloaded version. You know, on my decent TV. But I think it's probably something that's going to be better experienced probably in the theater, especially with those big visuals. Like, it's probably something that's way more enjoyable in the theater. The Harkonnens aren't so innocent. You think we don't got killers? Fade Rautha. I can't do it. I'm gonna watch it on my Nokia N-Gage. Rob loves denier. I'm a denier of the Atreides genocide. That's right. Yeah. The Fremen folks, nasty fellas. They make the best spice. Love the spice. Why don't you denounce Baron Harkonnen? Why don't you denounce Baron Harkonnen? That's right. But it just makes me love the fucking some things about the Lynch version. God, like the guild. I want to see the guild navigators, or even the like put your hand in the box scene. Is so iconic. Like this was like a huge budget for the time, like mainstream corporate American movie. Like. That shit is so cool. I will kill him. And it's got that fucking great scene where Patrick Stewart as Gurney Halleck, when he sees Paul again. There's this, yeah, I love this effect too. The effect of the shields, like the effect of the shields, I would say is cooler in the David Lynch version in 1984 than it is in the new version. And the Toto sound They're still extracting Arrakis from wealth, but nicely. What's this? I just wanted to see the scene where he sees Paul again. It's so cool. He says, "You young pup." It's so fucking great. Oh, it's when he's playing the lute, the space lute. And you know, it's the guy from Toto that composed this little lick, too. It's from that 70s show. It's like that 25 70s show.
Perhaps it isn't wise for you to associate too closely with us Atreides.
On the contrary, I feel very comfortable.
Max von Sydow. Fucking great cast.
Remember how precious water is here. That was a token of respect.
A spice rotation. There we go. Dream spice rotation.
Are you enlisting with us?
You see through to the truth of a thing, sire.
That means a dual alliance. He's in with the Emperor.
A dual alliance? Yes. But not with the Emperor. The Fremen.
Then let the water be a bond between us.
Oh shit. Power move. Yeah, I think we were saying it was a deleted scene, yeah. I don't know. I really enjoyed the new movie. I liked that new trailer. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing it, but I do think there's a lot to like in this David Lynch version. Oh. Can we confirm Parasite movie night? Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. It is Parasite night. Unless something like comes up for me, it should be fine for me. Should be fine for me. And that goes for anyone else. If you do want to watch the film Parasite, which I have never seen, much to the chagrin of many community members, we will be watching that this evening in the Discord server. The TRRS Discord server, which you can join by clicking on the link in the chat. Please join the server, even if you're not able to support the channel. It's another great way that you can do it is by joining that Discord server, and you should just do it anyway because it's a great community. And it's really cool. And I think you will like it. Bong Joon-ho is an amazing director and a fellow traveler. He's the director that did The Host, right? Am I confusing that? Which was also very critical of like American imperialism, and obviously this is like a direct sort of reference to capitalism, as much as, you know, people tried to frame it as being something other than that. I remember seeing that quote from him when the movie was like, when he was doing the rounds to promote the film and like winning awards for the movie, talking about how like we all live in the same country called capitalism. I thought that was always stuck with me as well, which also answers to the people that, you know, criticize me or whatever, because when I weigh in on what's going on in America, that quote really stuck with me. We all live in the same country called capitalism. So I am looking forward to watching it tonight. Oh, unless Marty's computer is having an issue. Maybe I could host it. I've never streamed in Discord before, but I mean, I probably could if it came down to it. I love how the American military caused the fish monster. Weird that there would be these like popular South Korean artists that are critical of the like U.S. war machine and critical of the economic system that has been enforced on them at gunpoint. I thought everyone in South Korea just loved the American military and loved the American style capitalism. It's been so great for South Korea, as we're always told, right? I thought people in South Korea were thankful for this and loved capitalism and loved the U.S. military. You're telling me that there's popular South Korean artists? Squid Game is another example of that, actually, who are actually criticizing the system and criticizing U.S. Militarism and imperialism. That's kind of odd, isn't it? What do they support with the DPRK? What do they support North Korea? You know, the same people that they're like family members and the same culture, the same country. They love having U.S. gun towers inside their cities, for sure. It's great that people love in Seoul, South Korea, that there's this like massive, like 6-block, monstrous U.S. military base right in the heart of the city. They just love that. NYT just released a piece on the U.S. military's sex trafficking in South Korea, and it's horrifying. I don't doubt that it is, and you can say this, rinse and repeat, anywhere there's a significant U.S. Military presence, especially in Asia, you know, in the Philippines, in Okinawa, certainly, and elsewhere in Japan. For sure, yeah. You know, that's why there's this movement to get the U.S. military out of Okinawa that has been just completely like undemocratically crushed. Americans brought fried chicken technology to South Korea. South Korea surrenders to the rules-based international order. Completely fair exchange. Even that is a little bit... I know that like Western food and American food has like been kind of absorbed into South Korean cuisine to a certain extent, but like tempura existed before the Korean War, you know, like the idea of like deep frying something in oil has been going on in that region for way, way longer than the Americans were there. Yeah, I don't even want to bring up Indonesia for sure. Yeah. I do really love that Korean fried chicken. There's some fucking amazing Korean fried chicken restaurants that are in this neighborhood that I'm in right now. Some of the very best. The best, Jerry. The best. Yeah, I don't know if we did talk about that. How they recognized Okinawa as Ryukyu. I don't think we did talk about it, but that seems like a pretty significant development, doesn't it? Considering that they do have this kind of non-interventionist policy generally, but I think that's an interesting diplomatic kind of move to support these like struggles for independence. They do wonderful honey mustard for sure at the Korean fried chicken place next to me. They do fucking amazing
to talk you through
like
all this.
dipping sauce.
TRRS Sankara, thank you for your work.
Montreal is the goated Canadian city for food. It really is a fucking fantastic food city. You know, I feel very lucky to live here, honestly. Even though it's not perfect by any stretch, really do love this city. Thank you, JNKD, for the 26 months of Tier 1. I very much appreciate that, JNKD. And I do have to go soon. Very, very low on the subs today, which is, you know, of course, fine. Who's even counting, really? Not me. But I do have to get going in about 10 minutes, so I'll just make one final plea, folks. If you enjoy tuning into this program each and every day, do this show every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If you enjoy this community, if you enjoy this content appearing on twitch.tv, please subscribe. That's the only way that it's able to keep going. The only way that I'm able to continue doing this program is through the generosity of the community members. So if you can spare it, if you want to support the work that I do here, please subscribe, give subs or friend coin or whatever, you know, make the little dancing Rob appear on the screen. People like that. People like when I do the glasses thing,
Count on
the
me.
shades.
You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
The ultra elite exclusive and rare 10 sub gift animation. We love to see that sometimes. That's fun. Mikey, thank you very much for the 2 gifted subs. Thank you very much, Mikey. I appreciate it. Slub to Rib. It's an anti-genocide stream. In case that was not clear. I know sometimes this gets confusing for people. In case that was not clear, though, this is the official stance of this show: is that genocide is bad, which we did confirm earlier. We've got Vexing Thoughts looking for a possible gift sub. Is there a heroic chatter that wants to gift a sub to Vexing Thoughts? Wasn't there a new? It was a new sound alert promised, and I am going to work on that. What I really want to do, Dakadoon, is figure out a way.
Have good old Rob to
thank you,
talk
Alana.
through all this.
Thank you for the gifted sub to Vexing Thoughts, Alana. I really appreciate that. I really liked Alana, your idea that you were talking about on Twitter of this cereal milk and cereal ice cream flavor. That was extremely good shit. I really thought that was good stuff. It was brilliant, yeah. What I want to do is find a way to trigger certain sound alerts, just to be able to pay to trigger a certain sound alert. I feel like that would be something that could be fun. That would probably help me. I just don't know how that works on Twitch, if that's possible. But there's like 3 or 4 really cool ones that I think I could program in. That would be really fun. What is this ice cream idea? I make ice cream. Alana, do you want to link me? Should we look into this? I do need to be reminded on this stuff, folks, frankly, you know? I've got new emotes that I was supposed to be putting in like weeks ago, and I just haven't done it because I'm just bad at like doing stuff. I'm just bad at doing stuff. Doesn't Freak Museum have the bit for sound alerts feature up and running? I haven't seen it. Oh man, smoked meat on rye and a dill pickle with a black cherry cod. Talk about a fucking amazing Montreal food. That's up there. That's like a top 3 Montreal meal. The smoked meat on rye, dill pickle, and the black cherry cod. That's just tremendous. That just screams Montreal to me. It's fantastic. I kind of want to eat that right now. I think I'm going to go to McDonald's later. It's McDonald's Wednesday over here. And I want to eat that right now. I want to get in my car or the metro or the bus and go up to Saint Laurent and go to Main Diner and pick up a smoked meat sandwich with the dill pickle with the black cherry cod right now. They do have poutine at McDonald's, though. I've never had it. I've never had the McDonald's poutine. Even just the black cherry cod sounds so appealing to me right now. That's not cod, it's cot. It's like this kind of, I don't know if it's regional soda. Cot black cherry. I think they have a few different flavors, but the black cherry one is the popular one. Smoked meat poutine, absolutely not bad. I think that's underselling it significantly. God, soda sounds like some shit y'all would fuck with. No, those are for our Scandinavian friends. I'm sure that's like a Denmark or a Sweden or a Finland thing. It's a Ergen Flurgen Cod Soda. That's so offensive. That's so offensive, and I apologize. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. I bet Maine has a lobster cola. That's probably true. That's probably true. Yeah, I gotta go soon, folks. I've been like, I don't know. I still feel like I'm tired all the time. I think ideally, it's my passive aggressive comments about the sub goal are really meant to be taken that way. It's like part of it is on my end as well. Like, I've really been only physically and mentally capable of doing the show for 3 hours at a time, when really I probably should be trying to do a bit more. So I'll keep trying to get back to where I was with that. But I'm just tired. I'm just tired all the time. All right, another...
You can count on me. You're going to have a good old
shitty
Rob
night of
to
sleep.
talk you through all this.
Hey, a fear inoculated, brand new community member. Thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Please enjoy all your brand new emotes. Some of the very best emotes on this entire platform. Thank you for that. You're tired all the time too. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. There's been a couple times during this stream when I've been like in the mid-sentence and I've been like dissociating mid-sentence and like floating upwards and then being aware of myself like as I'm in the middle of saying some like point, But does that make sense? I had to be up really early and I was just like, I was up this morning at 7:15 and was like in my car by like 7:25, like doing stuff,
Count on me.
driving
You're gonna have
around.
Good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Rob nap stream when?
In search of Slack. Thank you for the 18 months of tier 1. I really appreciate that. I don't think anyone would want to see me sleep. I don't think that would be entertaining. And I don't think that would be fun for me either. I think I'd be very self-conscious of that. Just passed out on a lazy boy. Might as well really lean into that. Tired from the mental gymnastics. Yeah. Absolutely. With a nightcap on and everything. Because I've mentioned you. It's funny that you say that, Johnny. I've mentioned my son before and how he's obsessed with nightcaps because he became randomly like fixated on like Victorian England and like Scrooge and was obsessed with nightcaps for some reason. And now like he refuses to sleep without a nightcap. He's got two. He has got a gray one and a black
Count on
one.
me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
He's got a gray nightcap and a black nightcap, and he has to switch every night. He can't wear the same one 2 nights in a row. It's like he's got it all scheduled in his mind. On one night he wears the gray one, and the next night he wears the black one. And it's like it has to be like this. Like if we can't fuck up the nightcap schedule, or it's going to be a big problem. Thank you, Critical Mass, for the 14 months of tier 1. Thank you. It is very funny. He's a very funny dude. He's a really funny guy. A good quality of life upgrade is to have a nice lazy boy chair that will eventually mold to your body that you can fall asleep in. Yeah, I don't have a lazy boy chair. Yeah, so I don't think I could sleep in this chair. I do have a next to me here a nice armchair that I got on Facebook Marketplace that's very comfy, but it's not like a recliner though. It's not a recliner. Picturing young Venom in a dressing gown with a snifter of cognac. He's not even, I know people call it like the Venom thing as stuck because he was so obsessed with that, but he doesn't really talk about Venom anymore, honestly. Right now he's all about the Joker. Like he only ever wants to talk about Joker. That's his big thing now, and specifically Joker being thrown into vats of acid. He has looked at every single... If you go on YouTube and find all the different content featuring Joker falling into vats of acid, there's like compilation videos of all the time. There's Lego versions of all the movie scenes where it's happened. He's got... I've showed him the Killing Joke where the Red Hood falls into the acid. He's fucking fixated. Yeah, he loves the Mark Hamill Joker. He's obsessed with people with transformations. It's true. Yeah. Iman is done with Spider-Man. He looks at me like I'm some boomer freak when I ask about Spidey. Yeah, they move on from these things. Again, I've talked about before how I hyperfixate on things foods and entertainment things, songs, bands, films. And he's the same way. He very much jumps from fixation to fixation. I think there's definitely some neurodivergent tendencies that have been passed along down the generations here. I remember Joker falling into the acid left an impression on me for sure. He watches this shit over and over and over again, and he's obsessed with not only like the falling into the acid, but the splash, the way that it makes a splash. How big was the splash? Big or small? He wants to look at the characteristics of the splash and what that looked like. I don't know where it comes from or what it means, but like he really thinks about this a lot. He thinks about this like all the time. Sometimes he'll wake up in the morning and it's the first thing that comes out of his mouth. The very first thing that comes out of his mouth is he starts talking about like people falling into acid and making big splashes and fluid dynamics. Yeah, the fluid dynamics of the acid splashes. The fluid dynamics of Joker falling into the acid vat. My son, 7 years old, thinks about this so much. Like, I would say probably 75% of the time that he's awake on a day-to-day basis, he's thinking about that or like talking to you about it. Oh, he loves Roger Rabbit. Loves it. That's another acid fall that he fixates on. And I showed him T2 the other day and he did like that as well. He liked that as well. He loves Roger Rabbit. In fact, that's one of the movies we watch the most because like, you know how little kids watch movies like so many times over and over, but that one's just so fucking great that I can watch it over and over and not really get tired of it. I think it's so amazing. We didn't watch RoboCop yet, although he knows who RoboCop is. Roger Rabbit is such a good film that could never be made now. I mean, Bob Hoskins in Roger Rabbit, I really think is one of the best acting performances like in any film ever. Bob Hoskins in that movie is just like fucking unreal. He does everything, you know? And he plays it totally straight, especially the beginning part. Plays it totally straight. He's the hard-boiled kind of noir-style detective, alcoholic, depressed, angry, and gradually transition into like, he's doing this like vaudeville stuff, pratfalls, singing and dancing later. Like he just does absolutely everything. And it's just so fantastic. It's just a tour de force performance. Fucking unbelievable. I was reading as well that apparently that was offered to Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy was originally under consideration for that role, Eddie Valiant in Roger Rabbit, which probably would have been very entertaining. But like, I can't imagine anyone other than Bob Hoskins doing that. You know what? I don't think I've ever seen the Super Mario Brothers movie, the Bob Hoskins Super Mario Brothers movie with John Leguizamo. You know what? I think I remember when I was a kid reading the novelization of that. I read the novelization, but I didn't see the film. That's probably something worth watching, isn't it? It's horrible. It's an experience. It seems just kind of an incredible interpretation of that. Like someone looked at Mario Brothers, the Nintendo game, and was like, let's turn this into a movie. And then you look at just like the visual, the production design in that, and it's like, what the fuck? You know? I absolutely read the Mario Brothers novelization. Remember how also a film that tried to do the sort of Roger Rabbit thing and leaning prominently into the sexy cartoon imagery with that film Cool World. Remember that? With like the Kim Basinger like sexy femme fatale cartoon. Remember that? Didn't quite catch on as much. Cool World. Brad Pitt was in that, yeah, as well. It's one of his first films. Yeah. Mario Brothers, the movie, the novel, the game. It's like a Baudrillard-esque kind of thing. That was like David Lynch doing Roger Rabbit, yeah. I don't know. I was big on reading novelizations as a kid, though. The Mario Brothers novelization, the T2 novelization. I remember I read the Natural Born Killers novelization when I was like a preteen. I was big into that. I don't know. The Alien movie novelization wasn't bad. I actually have that. I was big into that when I was a kid. Okay. I would have to revisit the Oliver Stone Natural Born Killers. I think I definitely would have been interested to see what a Tarantino version would have looked like. It's kind of the same thing with Natural Born Killers, because Tarantino wrote this. Oh, sorry, not Natural Born Killers, but True Romance, which was one of Tarantino's first scripts that he sold. And like Tony Scott just absolutely fucking crushed that. You know, I love True Romance. But seeing a Tarantino version of it would have been interesting. Because I know in the True Romance script, it's written like a Pulp Fiction thing, like where it's out of time. It's similar to Pulp Fiction, where like the middle takes place at the end, and kind of changes the dynamic of the whole story. But I was a fan of Four Rooms as well. I was a Tarantino and Rodriguez head, Lana. Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I watched it many times. I loved that. But again, even with True Romance and this Tarantino version, I just love the Tony Scott film so much. Probably another Rob Cannon movie, frankly, that should be in the movie night rotation. You know what else I wanted to throw in there? Adaptation. That's got to be in the movie night rotation as well. Adaptation and True Romance. I haven't seen it in a long time. I like anthology films like that with different directors, though. Adaptation is one of my favorite films of all time. Definitely my favorite Nick Cage film in performance. Cool. Thank you, Twitch. I have to check out some of the newer Charlie Kaufman films. I definitely quite enjoyed Anomalisa. And in fact, in Anomalisa, good old yours truly is in the credits to that, because that was a Kickstarter film and I backed that. It was the only thing I've ever backed on Kickstarter was the film Anomalisa. So good old Rob's in the credits to that one, if you can believe that. Hey, I love Face Off as well. I saw it in the theater in the summer of '97. Always fucking love that movie. Don't get me wrong. Watched it with Ms. Squatch not too long ago. It was her first time seeing it. It was fun to revisit. Adaptation? Is that what you're referring to? It should be on my IMDb page. I agree. I'm a big shot film producer. I want to take his face off. John Woo, John Travolta at the height of his powers. There's a great moment just in the beginning of Face Off when like Nicolas Cage just kills some innocent woman and gives this like shit-eating smirk, like, ain't I a stinker? Kind of like out of the window of this plane. And it's so great. He's so fantastic. Okay, folks. I'll see you, I think, tomorrow. But I'll see you tonight. Parasite, Discord. Goodbye.